Hello, friends. Welcome to our weekly data talk, a show where we talk with data science leaders from around the world. Today, we're talking to PB Kannan. He's the CEO of 247.ai. PB, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, Mike.
So we're here to talk about his brand new book called The Age of Intent, using artificial intelligence to deliver superior customer experience. PB, I got a chance to read your book last week. I really enjoyed going through all the various case studies you shared on the benefits of using AI for customer service, and what a great book. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about your company and how you have, over the years, transitioned from using, primarily people have always been involved in customer service, right? We love interacting with people, but with people comes a cost. You're right. It's difficult to scale. And also with people, sometimes people can be temperamental. People sometimes may have a bad attitude, and you go onto Glassdoor or Yelp and you might read about reviews about the poor customer service, the poor behavior of somebody. And so the nice thing about bots is that you're going to get a pleasant voice potentially, and you're not going to have a moody bot if designed properly, and hopefully a bot that's going to be very helpful and get you the information that you need. So there's always the benefits of bots. But I wanted to kind of talk with you about how you kind of transitioned your company over the years.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the transition took place in the late 2000s, and the trigger event was essentially the arrival of Hadoop as a great big data platform, and the fact that companies like Google and Yahoo are leveraging Hadoop for large data computation. The exciting thing about Hadoop for 24/7 was, for the first time, you could take different types of data and put it in one place. And by that I mean, you have phone conversations as part of customer service. You could be emailing, different brands, or you could be chatting or messaging them. So you have various kinds of data, and you also have various kinds of feedback on the service interactions, which come in the form of surveys, which could be voice surveys or email surveys that people fill out. And before this data couldn't be tapped uniformly. Neither was there an ability to say, I can collect all the signals that affect customers and actually start predicting what they're trying to do. So the fact, that we could enter a new age where we can predict what a customer is about to do was the reason, we got into the technology side. And my background is in technology, so it's not a big leap of faith to, jump in. And initially in 2007 and 8, we did a number of tests with a few customers of ours, where we took all the signals that we could collect and start testing whether whether we could predict intent. And it turned out we can predict intent quite accurately, around 90-95% of the time. And that gave us the confidence to go invest in this data platform that's kind of the foundation for the technology that's out there today.
Yeah, I thought, as I was going through your book, and you cited all these really interesting case studies on AI and chatbots helping out businesses in all these different industries I never even thought of before. I thought it was really interesting, the title of your book and kind of the whole theme around intent, that you're looking to use AI to help kind of solve the issue, like before the person even needs to say what it is they're coming to you about. And I thought that was really interesting, because you could have went with so many different titles and so many different ways of approaching, chatbots and retail. But you really were specific about intents. Can you talk about why intent was like the focus of your book?
So it's very interesting, right? Everyone has an opinion on customer service, because we think as consumers, it's kind of, everyone thinks they can run a restaurant because we all eat, right? So with customer service, there are many theories on how to make customers happy. But if you look at the data and what makes an interaction kind of very compelling, and this is true of whether you're interacting with a machine or with a human being, right? if the customer service agent understands what you're trying to do within seconds, the customer starts getting delighted, right? And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of friction comes in the early part of the conversation where, if it's not a well-trained agent, you literally talk past each other, right?
Yes.
And both parties are frustrated. And most people don't realize that it's actually, the minute the customer gains confidence, the agent has understood clearly what they are, asking for, and starts, peeling the onion layer by layer, that they gain confidence and then start relaxing. So for us, it was about, hey, if we can, the other thing about intent is, if you crack the intent, everything else is just, sequential steps after that, right? Because a company has a policy or a decision, like, you take a company like, Dish that we profile. If you call in and you say, hey, I ordered an on-demand movie and it didn't work, and if the agent can quickly figure out why it didn't work, then the rest of the equation is easy, because they'll give you a refund, and
Mm-hmm.
offer you maybe a credit because it was annoying that you spent hope to watch a particular movie and you were not able to watch it, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand what you're trying to do, then it becomes incredibly frustrating. So the focus became, as we built out the platform, is to, the sooner we can figure out what the customer is trying to do, even better is if we ask the customer, is that what they are reaching the company for? It becomes even more pleasant. And we've tested this in customers like United and Avis and many brands, where the minute the conversation starts by, acknowledging who you are. So if I say, hey, Mike, is this about the flight to Dallas today? The customer, engages with the, automated platform 99% of the time. They never ask for an agent, right?
Mm.
So it also showed that, the minute you, recognize the customer and ask them, what is it that they're trying to do, the customer gains confidence in the automated system, right? So
That's
that's
right.
why, tracking the intent is the hard part in customer service. The rest of the steps are, fairly easy.
I think that's right. If you're able to build that trust with that bot, that's huge.
Yeah.
And like you said, if I'm calling in to an airline and I'm in a different state, and from my caller ID, where I'm at, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
know, like, oh, there must be something going on, and you're able to kind of even begin that conversation with that suggested intent. That will give me more confidence in the bot. I think what was difficult, just in my experience, because I kind of grew up, right, with uh, trying out different things, like the
Mm-hmm.
early days of Siri and the early days of bots, and just my interaction with, even going through the phone system, right? And I've had very, very poor experiences. And so it's funny, like my generation having had some difficult conversations with bots or through phone, the phone chain. Um, but as technology's gotten better and better, I'm still of the old school where it's like, I want to talk to a human, right? That's my mentality. But I look at my kids and the way that they're already interacting with Siri, already in a comfortable way, where they're just like, hey, Siri, play that song, or what is how many shots did LeBron make in this game? And I see how quickly my kids are getting information, whereas I'm like, oh, let me type this in. Like, my first reaction is, let me type this in, let me talk to a human. My kids, this next generation, they're already more comfortable, like, having trust, because Siri's getting them the answer quickly, and much quicker than them having to type something in like I am. But I think that's kind of like the struggle, I think, with my generation, having raised and had some such poor experiences, that I have personally, PD, like a low trust, unfortunately, just because a lot of the experiences that I've had in the past have been poor.
It's so funny that you talk about this, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the one thing that is stark is, if you think about the advent of modern day internet, it started around 95, and
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce was the first thing, and by with the launch of iPhone and everything mobile in the last decade, pretty much everything we did traditionally has changed, right? How we consume content, how we buy books, or how we even choose hotel rooms with Airbnb and on-demand transport and on-demand food and things like that. Everything has changed. What has not changed relatively is customer service, right? I mean, it still has a very poor experience. People dread, dialing any 800 number because they think it's going to be horrible, and it is, right, most of the time. So, I joke around that what we do at 24/7 is, we're in the easy game because it's already so bad. You just have to be marginally better.
That's funny.
So in reality, what happens is when people encounter a call like, hey, Mike, is this what you're calling about? Or, a chatbot saying that, people are like, wow, this is amazing. They think it's magic, right? It's because the customer service industry has such a poor reputation overall, right?
Yeah. If you have some poor experiences just with customer service, and also like to your point, sometimes this is like my fourth phone call to the company about the same thing. And even with the best intentions of keeping notes, like I'm having to explain the same situation to a different person each time. Whereas with a bot that's able to like transcribe information, like if I call up to a smart bot, like it knows the last four phone calls and talk about intent. Like it might already know, like, oh gosh, from the data sources that we have, Mike's called 4 times about this particular issue that hasn't been resolved. But I don't need to re-explain myself.
That's right. The intent and the context needs to be retained, and the memory of the conversation needs to be there. And that's one of the biggest frustration dealing with large brands is that every conversation is fresh. Even though you've been a customer for 10 years, they don't know who you are. Those are simple stuff that can be solved, and it's not necessarily the technology that holds them back. I think large companies end up chasing the newest thing, and they overinvest in multiple channels, which create confusion as well. Because the more channels you have, the more you need to remember. Because one time I could have picked up the phone, the other time I could have chatted with a chatbot. So a lot of the technology in the background for us is about maintaining this memory and maintaining the conversation thread and understanding that you've interacted 12 times in the past 6 months, and these are the 2 themes that keep coming up. In which case, we can allow decision makers in those companies, ways to handle it. So one of the things, there's a chapter in the book on customer journey analytics. It's really looking at the corpus of data to say what leads someone to call 4 times, right? And today, most companies don't have those tools, right? So your interactions they do get stored, but no one analyzes them to say, why do people call 4 times a month on the same issue, right? In fact, it's so hard to pull the data together that companies just give up, right? And added to the complexity is, an average large bank, if you take the top 10 banks, they all handle at least 100 to 200 million calls a year, right?
Wow.
The largest will handle 500, 600 million calls a year. So you can imagine, if you're running, a large bank like Bank of America, that's a lot of interactions, right? So everyone gets lost in the mix. But today, with the power of big data and the right tools and technologies, people can sit back and go, I'm not going to get overwhelmed by the data. I'm actually going to look at who are the most frustrated customers? What drives that frustration? Where does it start? And actually go about solving the problem. And so, I do think in the next 10 years, the customer experience is going to get better and better.
Where do you see? I think also one of the difficulties is the amount of connection points, right? So there's the phone call and all the voice interactions happening there and transcribing all that. There's potentially the emails you're sending over to the organizations. And like you just said, you also have the chat interface if you're messaging with them on Facebook or just on their own site. And then you might even have, texting, or even the tweet to the company. And you have all these different connection points. And we're sure on the early days of like, how do you connect all these dots if this is all the same person? How do you see this all kind of coming together? Pretty soon?
It's coming together. The secret to solving it is not, asking consumers not to use Facebook Messenger or Twitter or, something else. The secret is really having one system and one conversation with the customer, right? And so if it's, if it's a conversation with, continuous memory, then you don't care which channel they come through, which modality, whether it's, asynchronous like email or messaging, or it's a live, real-time call that they want to have, whether it's a human or automated system. If everyone is looking at the same data and adding to the same memory, then it becomes, much more trivial. So, if you take a Dish as an example, you can contact them through, Apple Business Chat. You can contact them through Facebook Messenger. You can contact them through the chat on their website. It's all the same system, right? So, companies are slowly starting to recognize that the more, mix of vendors and solutions they buy to manage these channels, the more confusion they end up creating, because these systems don't talk to each other. They are in different formats and so on and so forth. But, if you put everything in text at the end of the day, like you said, I had a phone conversation, but the company transcribed it, so I don't have to, remember it. The next agent can quickly glance through and see what happened in that conversation. The easier it is. And companies are, slowly moving there. I mean, it's not easy shifting large companies to this kind of thinking, but they realize the problem they, get into if they don't think like this.
When did you realize that kind of the future of business is going to be these social interactions? Because I think your book makes a very strong case that, all of our interactions with the business, at some point, it's based on your experience with their customer service, how they handle the products. If you have to return something, that phone conversation. At what point did you realize, okay, this is all going towards a more automated, smart bot system, and we're going to be eventually removing humans out of the equation for the business?
Yeah, I mean, it started, the customer service industry, has always sold myths, right? That, if you do this, customers will stop calling you, and that's not the golden age for customer service, right? The golden age for customer service is, if I need to ask something, I should be able to ask a brand and not be, there should be no friction in between my ask and, their tell, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, in an average consumer today, we don't even think about Google searches consciously, right? We just go Google it and find out. Like you said, maybe you and I Google it. Our children, ask Siri to give the answer. But it's very natural. So it's a very natural thought process that if I need something, I need to be able to go. And what happened was, in the 90s, a lot of software solutions sold this myth that you build a website, use our self-service, technology, customers will stop calling you. In fact, the web made it even more easy to access information, and the call volume actually went up, right? And so companies were constantly, and I remember my clients will tell me, oh, we have, doing the website. It's a brand new intuitive design. So we expect call volumes to drop 30%. So we're going to, size down the call center. And I'm always like, no, anytime you make a web change, you confuse the customer. They've already learned something and you undo it, in which case they're going to call more to find out how to get something done. And, they'll be like, no, all our studies show this, and invariably, my prediction would come true. And in the book, I argue that, don't even attempt to stop them, right? If most of it can be automated, give it to them like Google does, right? Give them the power of, anytime click a button, ask anything you want. And if they want to do it by speech, let it be, right? But there's no point in trying to, fight with your customers, right? And brands who don't recognize this are going to be in trouble, right? Because the more brands that are going to do this are going to win in the marketplace. And case in point is the success, Amazon is having, because they've thought about customer experience in everything they do, right?
No doubt, no doubt. Amazon is a sure leader in this, and all my experiences with Amazon have been great. Even when I've had wrong shipments or I need to return something, Amazon's made it very, very easy. Let us send you a box, or just head over to this local store to go ship it out. I mean, I've always had great experience with Amazon, and obviously they're putting customers first. How do you see, as more and more companies start to use smart bots to handle these customer exchanges, how do you see personality of the brand, the brand voice being incorporated into these conversations? Because some brands tend to be more fun, right? Some tend to be more business focused. And I think every brand has a certain feel, right? When you go to their website, like you're saying, like there's a certain feel that the brand wants you to experience. And I'm wondering how that comes into the voice space.
Right. I mean, there is, without a doubt, there is, a brand identity needs to be reflected in the bot, right? But it has to be done in a way where it's not overdone either, right? I mean, because the customer is interacting with the brand because they want something to be done, right? So
That's right.
I always try to remind my customers that they're not there for entertainment. You're not Netflix, right? You're a bot.
That's right.
Your job is to, handle the questions or, give them what they need and then step out of the way. So you have to do it with care without taking the, sight away from, what is the objective the customer is coming in for. But, there are situations where, for instance, let's say, you're calling your, farmers or State Farm, after you've had an accident. That's a great opportunity for, these brands to actually show human face of the brand by putting a human, in the interaction, right? Now, if it's your glass that's broken, that's perfectly okay. I think no customer is going to complain if they can quickly file a glass claim and get someone out that same day. But you have to make those evaluations. So part of it is taking intents and going, where are intents where the customer may be facing some issues, right? Cancellation of a flight where you're traveling with your family, meaning it's going to be a vacation or going to some relative's home or something like that. That is far more stressful than your flight to New York for a business trip getting canceled. So it is kind of by intent and by context, understanding what emotional aspect is going to be affected, and then making the right call as a brand, right? What would your brand do? Like American Express as a brand is known for going above and beyond what customers expect, right? So if they sense that this intent has, like I lost my card, that's a high touch, high emotion moment, especially if you're overseas, right? Because you now feel like, hey, I don't even have another alternative. That's an opportunity for the brand to shine and show its true character. So it's a combination of both the human touch as well as the bot sensing that, I need to bring the right aspect to this interaction and not attempt to do it myself.
Yeah, in fact, I love that section in your book where you talk about the contextual elements and you give the example of just sometimes you just want to vent. Yeah. And I thought it was an excellent example you gave. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because sometimes, you want to like vent your frustration at a certain, the service was terrible. You might love the restaurant, but you had a very, very poor experience and you want to vent. You want to let them know what's going on, but you don't necessarily want, right? You may not necessarily want anything in return. You just want them to understand where you're coming from. Right.
I mean, it's very much, you nailed it, which is it's our human nature to make sure that the other side understands how much pain you went through, right?
That's right.
And, even let's say we magically fix everything with bots, and there's still going to be disruptions in supply chain to physical things because we are in a physical world, right? The item you ordered may show up damaged, and it may be your spouse's special anniversary, and you messed it up, right?
That's right.
And this is a good example where just having the patience to listen and understand the context and doing the right thing, and this is where human interactions can go beyond. One of the things I talk about in the book is don't take all the savings that you get from the bot and put it to some other use, right? Save some for elevating the human conversation, right? If the bot is going to do so well with most of the routine transaction, then it's these special moments that are going to come about where your brand gets established, right? So you cannot have the same, lowly paid agent handling those queries, right? They cannot be stressed out workers. The average call center worker it's one of the most stressful jobs in the world, right? Because no one calls you and say you're doing a terrific job, right? Everyone is calling because there's an issue or some problem, and the call center workers are constantly monitored. Everything they say is recorded. It's being analyzed to they're like micromanaged to death, right? So allowing the agents to kind of take it more easy, giving them the physical and time and space to handle customers in a special way requires that they rethink the job of a future customer service rep.
I think that the future customer service rep is going to be in a much happier role, because to your
Yes.
point, I think that and I've worked in a call center, and there is little control. All you're hearing is really the complaints about the company. So all of a sudden you may come in really liking the company you work for, but within 2 weeks, 3 weeks of just constant complaints about the company, you're like, well, maybe this company's not so great anymore. And then you're like, I have no control. Everything I say is being recorded, and I'm being called into the office about something I said. That can be like, how long can you survive in that type of environment? It's not very long, because you're not going to be very, very happy. Next thing you know, you're going to go to Glassdoor and be complaining about the company you work for, because it's like all you're hearing is complaints. But I love like your view of the future of customer service, where a lot of the regular issues that need to be dealt with can be handled by a smart bot quickly and efficiently. Everyone's happy. And then those situations where somebody needs to vent, or there's a special circumstance, like that gets routed to a human, where then, okay, now, it's not about, how many phone calls did you take today? It's like, how did you best serve this person in the best possible way?
That's right. I mean, I think there are two ways to look at it. If you want to think about a company doing it really well today, I would say it's Zappos, right? Zappos allows, their, contact center workers to decide how they design their job, how many calls they're going to take, right? So there's a lot of degree of freedom and degree of decision making. That's, the agents are empowered to do those things, right? And if you think about concierges in, 5-star hotels and resorts, they're similarly very empowered, right? They can, buy you show tickets. They think you're having, celebrating a special day in your life. So that kind of empowerment is what these workers are missing, right? Because it's not that they don't know how to make you happy; they're not allowed to make you happy.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a constant frustration. So I'm excited about the future as these bots get better and handling a lot of these routine tasks that sometimes a human agent would be like, oh, that'd be great if a bot can do that. Like that, I'd rather be focusing on these really complex issues where I can listen and let somebody vent and like be human with that person, and then try to get them the help they need, or at least let them know that I'm with them on this journey that's going to be painful. And maybe there isn't a great solution here, but I'm going to be with them.
That's right. I mean, you talked about, calling 4 times repeatedly.
Yeah.
In a situation like this, this agent of the future will be the single owner for that, right? So instead of calling 4 different people, you'll be talking to the same person who already knows the issue and the history. So you don't have to repeat anything. And technology in the background will be empowering that agent so that they can quickly, take care of you. And that's kind of, the future we are marching towards.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I loved your section where you talked about conversational commerce. And I love how you critiqued a lot of the current things, because I see the same thing. Like sometimes with bots that are being abused, they're basically spam, right? There's so many spam bots that are out there that just hit you with, you don't want to be bothered. You're just on a website or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're getting hit up with these sales messages that bombard you, or even going to a certain Facebook page or something, and all of a sudden you're getting hit up. And to me, that's like an abusive bot. It's like being used for the wrong purposes, and it also like it makes the next bot interaction like less interesting, because you're like, oh yeah, I know about these bots. They're just trying to sell me something. And I'm really glad that you called it out, because like there's like really good uses of AI, like you're talking about. Like how does a brand use AI in a smart way to help people and get the things that they need achieved quickly and efficiently in a happy way. And then there's like these misuses of bots that are used to be, basically, a terrible sales experience. And I love the fact that you called it out. Can you talk a little bit about conversational commerce, and then also any uses that you've thought that they've done a good job with it?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, finding bad examples is not that hard. The good ones are the hard ones, right? A good one is clearly using Alexa to reorder something from Amazon. It's much faster to do it in using speech than trying to go and search that product in Amazon and then click on reorder, right? So there are use cases where talking and stating your problem in one sentence and giving all the context for an automated system to do something like something similar, like calling United and say book that same flight that I had to New York, right? And the bot should be smart enough to figure out what time preference I had, book the same slot, what seat did I sit, is it an aisle seat, did I have a meal preference, and just finish off in one transaction.
I love that.
Those are good examples, right? And the bad examples are like, I remember when Facebook Messenger, we partnered with them, and they wanted to, enable customer service. And, in the launch, they talked about you can order Uber using Facebook Messenger. And, that's a terrible idea. I mean, Uber works great as is. You don't have to make any changes. I just pick the app, instead I have to now say, where am I, sitting? Where do I want to go to?
That's right.
That's a terrible use case, right? So I think people need to figure out what is the level of effort that the consumer has to do, and what is it that the bot is going to do. If the consumer is doing most of the heavy lifting, then you have designed the bot obviously really wrong. But if the consumer is doing very little and the bot is doing all the heavy lifting, that's a great way to think about it, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's funny. I think it was like 2 years ago, I read this report. I work in social media, so there's a social media report that goes out every 2 years or every year. And about 2 years ago, the report said that bots in social media is going to take over, and everyone needs to get involved in bots. And that was like 2 years ago. Anyways, the last report, and this is interviewing all the social media directors, was basically like, stay away from bots. Like they're not working because they were like it wasn't being used properly. They were being misused, and the experiences weren't very helpful. They were very spammy. It was basically like a script around sign up for this lead gen product, right? And it was like, well, yeah, I mean, it was basically spam. It was like another way of trying to get someone to do something, and it wasn't a good experience. And I thought it just kind of like ruined the bot experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very interesting how Facebook went about launching the Messenger, and I'd say right now they're in the midst of a relaunch because they realized the world ended up with 100,000 bots, and all of them were useless, right? And if you look at what Apple is doing, we're partnering with them, and they're very thoughtful. So they're very clear that if you don't provide a great experience using Apple Business Chat, we will kick you out, whichever brand is doing it, right? So they want that channel to function and realize its potential. So they're actually critiquing whatever brands we are working with. You have someone in Apple actually saying, "Hey, I went and tested it at this time. I didn't get an agent right away." So you need to staff this properly. Otherwise, this is not a viable channel, and we don't want to be in the middle of it, right? Because we're putting our brand behind this channel, right? So that's also as others launch their own messaging channels, other big brands, I think this consciousness of you don't launch channels without thinking through how the customer is going to be supported.
Yes,
is what got Facebook into trouble. Right.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that's definitely right. You need to be very, very thoughtful. I understand about being innovative and being quick to market and testing things. Like I love that attitude and like, oh, there's a bot, let's test out this technology. But there's also that case that you're making about, you got to be very, very thoughtful. This is your customer. You want to make sure they have a good experience. It's not about just plugging in a script and going, there you go. Now we're testing bots. Like, that can work for certain things, but you have to also think about, is this going to be part of a good, thoughtful customer journey, or are you going to upset people with just a way to get leads?
That's right. And it's also, it's such a powerful way to use Facebook Messenger or Apple or Google or whoever to, message with brands. But, the minute you demonstrate that it's not a reliable one, then people, like you said, they turn off and then they never give it a second chance, right? So it's really hard to earn the trust of your customers if you don't execute well in these new channels.
No doubt. Also, what I really enjoyed, because when I picked up your book, I was thinking, okay, age of intent using AI for customer service. I was thinking of strictly, I was thinking, okay, maybe it's talking about voice technology and interacting with bots on a website. So that's what I was thinking of. And then you throw in something that I thought was really fascinating, where you talked about voice technology and bots working with human agents. And I love that section, because this kind of like made me think of a whole new view of working in the future, whether or not you work in customer service, but just having an AI assisting you with your work, helping you find things quicker. Can you talk about this vision that you have for the future?
Yeah, I mean, from a customer service perspective, having AI listening to a conversation and either assist the agent with quickly finding things, or actually providing an answer or policy or whatever it is, that's what I call an easy use case, right?
Yeah.
More complex use case is also kind of sensing the emotion, because the agents are going from one call to the other very quickly, right? So sometimes they miss out on emotional cues because they're kind of looking at the screen and are not really paying attention to the conversation, right? Like I think in the book they talk about someone calling a credit card company and saying, hey, my daughter just got into Harvard, so I'm getting a card for you. And the agent just ignores it, right? I mean, it's a mother to call the credit card company, and if AI was listening to the call, it'll say, hey, first, congratulate her. What a great thing for a mother.
Yeah.
Your daughter is going to one of the fabulous colleges in the world. So those are kinds of things that AI can pick up and say don't take the conversation here. It can also remember from other great conversation, especially for a new agent, and say, no, don't approach it this way, right? Or don't use these words, and coach them so that at the end of the call they realize what they could have done better, right? So, and you're right, it's not just about customer service, right? Today already, like in our company, we use a technology where when our salespeople are talking to customers, AI is listening in the background and then telling them after the session, hey, I analyzed the call. A good salesperson will let the customer talk most of the time. But you sat in a meeting for 60 minutes and spent 45 minutes talking and 15 minutes barely listening, right? So so it can be applied to anything where two or more people are having a conversation, to realize in the future, I think the meetings would be a great critique. There'll be an AI telling you this meeting is useless. It's going nowhere, right? Or AI can come in and say, you don't have an agenda. Why did you call this meeting, right? So, I think any human activity, we will get good coaching from, learning from other, great practitioners who are doing it well, and then saying you're not applying certain principles, right?
That's awesome. For those listening in, we are talking about The Age of Intent, brand new book, using artificial intelligence to deliver a superior customer experience. The website is ageofintent.com. Check it out. It is filled with tons of great case studies, things to think about for the future. If you like reading about what the future might be like, this is definitely a book that you'll want to pick up. Just about the way that AI will be used, not only in business, but also in work, and how we are all working together. And like I said, I was blown away at some of these chapters. I was like, oh, wow, I never even thought about that. One last question, PV. For those that are listening in and they're working at a company that AI chatbots are not really being used, they're listening to you share these stories, and then they read your book and all these great case studies, and they're wondering, okay, what's the process to begin to actually bring it to life in a company? What sort of teams or departments need to be involved in actually beginning the process of developing a bot for customer service, and also then internally for the workers to then even be able to find the like you just said, to even find information in the company? Because sometimes I know when I'm trying to find something, a policy, a document on our internet, I can get lost very, very easily. I'm like, oh, it'd be great if I had a smart bot that could just like help me serve up this content.
Right, right. So, the first thing is there's a multi-disciplinary effort, right? So definitely, depending on the role this person has, without a doubt, information technology, customer service, senior people need to be involved, marketing from a brand perspective, because, you're making a promise that, introducing a new channel and it's going to be helpful for the customer, right? Like you pointed out, if the channel is just to sell, then it's going to have very limited success, because most people go to your website for service, not necessarily for sales, right? So, so it has to be really well thought out what the use case is. Now, there's nothing wrong in saying, I'm going to have a bot that helps you just buy. There's nothing wrong. But when the customer clicks on the bot for help, it shouldn't say, how can I help you? Instead, it should say, hey, I can answer any sales related questions that you have. Right now, I cannot handle any customer service. So please go here to this chat link or, 800 number if you want to talk about, customer service. And that's where I think setting the right expectation for the bot is important, because you're not going to be able to serve 100%. And the other thing I always tell people is, even if the bot is going to handle a limited set of intents, for the others, make sure that a human is available to catch it, right? Otherwise, the experience is broken, right? So even if let's say you can help with whether this quantity is available, this color is available, or whatever other questions you have, during that process, if it turns out the bot cannot handle a particular query related to an intent that is supported by the bot, just bring in a human agent who already understands what the customer has done so far, so that at least the intents you say that you're going to handle is actually handled 100% of the time. Otherwise, customers get really frustrated, right? So those will be some elementary things. But the biggest barrier we see in large companies implementing bots is the readiness of IT systems. There's a chapter in the book that I talk about having modern APIs, having the ability to respond in sub-seconds, milliseconds, not even sub-second. It's like 100 milliseconds
Gee
or less.
whiz.
So if you don't have that, then the bot really cannot do anything, right? Otherwise, it's kind of like sitting there and waiting for the bot to respond. There's nothing more irritating than that.
Yeah. Oh man. By the way, you must be like the greatest test. Like when you're working with a bot on the phone, you're like testing out something. Are there any things like, have you ever like been on the phone with a bot or even in Messenger and you're having a really good experience? Like you're actually like impressed with the responses and how quickly things are going. I'm curious, have there been any like tests you've done to like, oh, I wonder how it'll handle this question?
You're so right. I have a bad habit of testing.
I'm sure you do.
Especially when I see a press release, like, Airline recently put out a press release and I broke it within 30 seconds, right? So,
I bet you did.
So, the best, the most impressive bot that I've seen is both American Express and Amazon, and neither of them use my company's technology, right? So I'm not trying to plug in, just Amazon's technology is really impressive. And Amex has a home-built bot. They've done a terrific job. It's complemented with a human agent where needed. So they've done all the design thinking of how to give a full experience, and it's very consistent with their other automated system. So that also makes it easier for the customer, right? Because you want that consistency among channels as you develop. It cannot be that your bot has great personality, but your human agent lacks it, right? So that's why when people try to go overboard in making the bot cute, I always say, look, at the end of the day, is the human agent going to be that funny? Right? That 800 number. So don't make one channel, super, smart, and every other channel is dumb, right?
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, PV, for your time. For those listening, again, the book, check it out. Google it. The Age of Intent: Using Artificial Intelligence to Deliver a Superior Customer Experience. You can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you go. Make sure you check this out. Again, the website is ageofintent.com. PV, thank you so much for being your guest. It's been a fascinating discussion with you, and I really, really enjoyed reading your book.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.